Good morning, and thank you very much for all your very interesting comments. Uh, Peter Kowalski says they should drag the BBC chair and director general into a parliamentary committee and ask them if they spoke to someone in government about Lineker's tweet and what they agreed to do about it. Brilliant. Apologies are easy, but actual contrition and willingness to be better feels unlikely to happen. I must say I do agree that the Director General of the BBC, when he gave his apology, gave a sort of non-apology, but it's a start. It's a start. And with that start, small steps. Somebody has said, Nicola Wright said, people actually tuned in to watch Match of the Day for the first time in years, as there were no pundits. Far better. Well, I'm afraid I wasn't one of them, but I am entertained by that thought. I must say I'm always irritated by people wittering on during royal occasions, particularly royal religious occasions, and you just think, just let the story tell itself. We don't need all this wittering, actually, and it would be quite nice, given the fact that we've got a digital service, that we could switch off the wittering and just have the action without the pundits. That must be a possibility, and that might be something that the BBC or some better channel, some more impartial channel, can provide. Two letters which have come to light. One is a letter from a person called Mr. Griffin, or to a person called Mr. Griffin from the BBC. And it says, thank you for contacting us about this comment posted on Twitter by Chris Packham. Chris is a freelance TV presenter and a very well-established naturalist who also works for other broadcasters, including Channel 5, National Geographic and Sky Arts. His personal Twitter account has no connection to the BBC. The BBC's editorial guidelines contain advice about the external activities of freelance presenters. They explain that the constraints for a freelance presenter like Chris are not the same as they are for, say, a BBC News or Current Affairs presenter. Chris is very open about his views and campaign work, and we carefully monitor the content which Chris presents for the BBC to ensure it remains distinct and separate from that campaign work. We believe that our audience is able to separate Chris's presenting work for us from the personal views he shares outside of BBC programmes. And now listen to the other one. The other one is about Andrew Neil, again from the BBC. Thank you for contacting us with your complaint about Andrew Neil. Andrew Neil, remember, was the editor of The Spectator, quite a right-wing newspaper, very interesting newspaper. We should read everything. Andrew is a freelancer, and his Twitter account is a personal one. The BBC is not responsible for its content. We'd also point out that on Twitter, Andrew states that his views are his own and that he is the chairman of The Spectator. This means that his tweets publicising The Spectator are related to his role there and unrelated to his work for the BBC. When carrying out his responsibilities for the BBC, he always adheres to the same rules of impartiality as all other presenters. We hope this reply helps to allay your concerns, and we'd like to thank you for getting in touch. So in those two cases, and there's a third point which has come up from the BBC's guidelines themselves, and it says actors, dramatists, comedians, musicians, and pundits who work for the BBC are not subject to the requirements of impartiality on social media. So the only grounds on which Gary Lineker has been attacked and admonished are the grounds that he's paid a significant salary or a significant amount of money. He's not paid a salary if he doesn't work for the BBC, if he's a freelance. The whole thing is nonsensical. It's nonsensical and it's unreasonable. And I'm so pleased that so many people have written to agree with me. And yeah, I've seen many of the tweets and nonsense put out by those people who are supporters of Suella Braverman and the like. I wag my head in confusion, really. And impartiality when you've got Fiona Bruce. I like all these people. This is the point. I like all these people. I think impartiality is about having a range of opinions rather than suppressing opinions. Anyway, I intend to switch off all my BBC content on Monday. So from 12 midnight tonight until 12 midnight on Monday, just to make the point that the Director General and the Chairman of the BBC should consider resigning and should consider a proper apology, and that we should make sure that this is not something that drives everybody away from the BBC. The BBC is potentially a good thing but needs reforming. And it would be a shame if this matter was hijacked, which of course is already being hijacked by the right wing of the Conservative Party as a justification for defunding the BBC. That would be a shame.